All right, this problem asks us, is triangle ABC inscribed in the circle a right triangle? Now, if you've learned about inscribed triangles and stuff, that you might be able to tell that whether it is or it isn't, but you can't assume by looking at the picture that that AB, for instance, segment AB is a diameter. There's a property, if you've learned so far about inscribed triangles and so forth, if you've learned inscribed triangle properties, you'll know that if AB is a diameter, then that is going to be a right triangle, because this angle would have to be half of the arc that's intersected right here, which would be 180, and half of 180 is 90. But you can't assume that the center is somewhere on AB, because they didn't tell you that. They just showed you a picture, and you can't ever assume anything based upon pictures. You have to make sure that they tell you something's, whether it's true or not. So we can't assume that. So what's another way we can see if this triangle is a right triangle? Well, the other way would be to look at the slopes of these two lines right here. The slope of this line, what's the slope of that line? And then also find the slope of the other line right there. And if those slopes are, remember properties of slopes, if the slopes are negative reciprocals of each other, right, or opposite reciprocals of each other, then those two lines are perpendicular, and two lines that are perpendicular make a right angle. So we're going to check that. And so how do we do that? Well, we have to find the slopes of the line. So the slope of this blue line here is going to be, I'll do this in blue, m equals the rise, remember it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so we'll use this as our second point right here, and this will be our first point, and C will be our second point. So it's going to be negative 6 minus 0 over positive 11 minus a negative 7. Notice how I'm being very careful with my negative signs. So that equals negative 6 over 18, which equals negative 1/3. That's the slope of that blue line. The slope of the red line, we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to use these points. And again, I'll use this as 0.2. It doesn't matter which one you use as 0.2, as long as you do it consistent on the top and the bottom. It will give you the correct answer either way. So this would be negative 6 minus 0 over 11 minus 13. And negative 6 over negative 2 equals a positive 3. Since these two are negative reciprocals of each other, then it is a right triangle, yes. Because, so to explain it, you'd say because angle ACB is a right angle, since the slopes of AC and BC are opposite reciprocals. You can spell out those words, opposite reciprocals. And also, this also means that AB is a diameter. Not that they asked that, but AB is also a diameter because of the property that I talked about earlier, is a diameter of the circle, which means the center is the center. Now, in fact, we can find the center. Again, they didn't ask that, but we can find the center, which will be the midpoint of A and B. And the midpoint of A and B, that's 13 and that's 7, so they're 20 away from each other. So it's 10. It's 10 away from each side. 10 away from each side is going to be at 3, as that's the midpoint formula.